Okay. All right. Let's talk about this Ohio primary. Richard Cordray, pretty handily beating Dennis Kucinich. I was surprised at the margin there. Were you?
Not necessarily. I expected it to be a little bit closer, but I think that the conventional wisdom was that Rich Cordray was going to win. The interesting thing about the Ohio governor's race is that it started out 18 months ago with 3 women and 1 man. The 1 man was my former colleague, Senator Joe Schiavone, who actually stood in to the entire end and got 10% of the vote, worked very, very hard. I actually voted for Joe, frankly, because I think he could bring some of the Trump voters back into the fold for Democrats. But Rich Cordray and Dennis Kucinich both.
So there was a third candidate in the.
There was 4. The fourth actually was was an Ohio Supreme Court justice who quit to run, but he was goofy to say the least. So it was. I don't think anyone, even though he was on the Supreme Court in Ohio, nobody really took him very seriously. So you had a situation where you had all these women running, and Joe, 18 months ago. Systematically, the women were dropping out. Rich Cordray got in, took Betty Sutton, who was a former member of Congress who was running for governor, made her his lieutenant governor pick. And sort of the rest is history. So, Rich, as I think everyone knows, was the head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB. For 8 years. So he was in D.C. And then Dennis Kucinich really, he lost due to redistricting in 2012, his seat in Congress, and has kind of been in and out of Ohio and D.C. and every place else for the last 6 years. So these two guys swoop back in. They have huge name recognition, but really didn't put a whole lot of effort into the sort of grassroots campaigning of connecting with voters. So there was a lot of people, 40% of Ohio Democrats were undecided all the way up to the end. I know people that were not sure what they were going to do.
When they walked in.
Cordray is not honestly particularly well liked. Dennis, I think people felt was a real long shot in the general election, just given, particularly his issues with Assad, and that sort of thing. And people thought that Joe Schiavone didn't have the name recognition to sort of cut through. So here we are with Rich Cordray and Betty Sutton.
Up against Mike DeWine, is former U.S. Senator.
Former member of Congress, former lieutenant governor.
And AG, right?
Current attorney general.
Yeah.
Here's a fun fact. Mike DeWine beat Rich Cordray when Rich Cordray was the sitting attorney general in 2010.
Oh, really?
So that's the thing that makes me scratch my head. I'm like, why are we signing up for this rematch? But look, I mean, I think Democrats struggle with having a bench, all across the country.